Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including not final podcast, but for the final episode, Steven Universe, Future / Steven Universe, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Michelle Anderer.
Hello.
Justin Cummings.
Hello.
And Alex Bonilla.
Hey.
Yes, everyone is roused and ready for the Steven Universe Futures finale.
Roused is a lie. We're emotionally exhausted.
Yes,
okay? That's the opposite of
everyone
roused.
is very emotional after we just watched the Steven Universe Future series finale, consisting of Homeworld Bound, Everything's Fine, I Am My Monster in the Future, that just aired on Cartoon Network, and we will be giving our reactions on this podcast to all of the emotions and everything else that happened. That's probably number one on the list. But make sure you have seen the Steven Universe Future finale and overlyanimated.com, etc., etc. But let's get into your reactions. It just finished a few minutes ago. Steven Universe is over. How are you feeling, Michelle?
I mean, mostly okay, I think, but that's, I think, just the afterglow of feeling really positive about where Steven's story ended up in the last episode after everything. But also the very last episode was when all the ugly crying on my end happened. And I didn't expect that. But, I mean, what can you say? It's the end of an era, and the show is so much to so many people. And oh my god, yeah, it's hard to give final thoughts. We're gonna dig into all this stuff.
These are initial thoughts.
Yeah,
these are initial thoughts.
Very, very happy with where this ended up going, and again, how explicit everything was. It's just like, oh, it's so cathartic, and I love it so much.
You were not expecting to cry from this finale? That seems interesting.
I've been moaning and saying, Steven, no, like the whole time. So I thought it honestly could be more of that. And then like a quiet sadness in the pit of my stomach. But the ugly crying did happen several times.
Michelle was ugly crying. Justin, how did you react to this finale?
It's hard to let go of something that's been part of my life for so long. And like you said, you know, how it's touched a whole lot of people. Like this show, like I was there from episode 1 and I was like, there's something here. Yeah. And it grew and it grew. And then I was like, wait a minute, this show's making me address feelings about like real trauma that I didn't want to talk about yet. This show's making me think this. I'm doing an entire college class on this, writing an essay a week. Like this show has consumed so much of my life that honestly, it's hard to separate my thoughts on the actual episode from just my thoughts on like holy crap, this is over. Because 7 years is a long time.
Yeah, does it feel over after that finale?
Rebecca confirmed no canon comics, so it kind of has to feel over.
Yeah, not like factually, but just did it feel like, it felt like this show's over after what you watched?
I'm okay where we are. And unlike another show that Dylan, you covered the finale of, we actually got a kiss in this episode.
That could refer to a lot of a lot of shows. I really don't know what you're talking about.
I was taking shots at Cora, but
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's a similar situation. But
it's not. I'm just taking pot shots because this show will probably be remembered for all it did for the LGBT community.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we got the straight kiss in the last episode.
Yeah, no Ruby Sapphire kiss.
No,
points docked.
Not points docked. This
They're married.
Yeah.
They didn't hold hands while walking through a door.
Okay.
What?
Alex, sarcastic comments aside, what were your reactions to the finale while you were watching it?
The last 3 or 4 minutes of I Am My Monster, I was on the verge of tears. During that commercial break, I did have a little break there in terms of crying. Then the future happened, and at the end, when you see Rebecca Sugar's face pop up, it's like, man, really over. That's when like I got the actual crying in. It's just it's gonna be hard to judge. I mean, we're doing this like immediately after, so it's hard to judge like how good these episodes are because I mean they're all flowing into each other and all. But I will say like this arc of Steven dealing with his emotional turmoil, developing into self-hatred, and the just the purity and the love of the people around him. It's like it puts me in a place where like I wish I had that at certain points in my life, and it really hits me in that regard, and I'm sure it hits a lot of people in that way who are watching this finale. Like it feels kind of like the ideal way that you'd wish would have things would have gone if you're in a mental situation like that. So. Well, I really enjoyed these final episodes just because I think that it does it does complete the Steven arc of this future epilogue in a neat way, and it does give me a bit of finality with like this is as far as we can go with Steven Universe, and it ends in a way that feels very it feels right. So. Well, we'll get into details, but overall, I enjoyed the experience of these episodes. Maybe not. It's not like the roller coaster highs of Change Your Mind because like it is a more emotionally focused one as opposed to action. But even so, like the effect it had on my heart is not is something I haven't felt in a while from television or more movies or anything. So, it was a lot.
Yes, but I agree with one of the things. This just feels right. Like that's my main reaction. This feels really right for an ending to Steven Universe, and I was very. One thing I was worried about was that this would be a big like future finale, but not necessarily a finale of all of Steven Universe, and those things blended really well together, I think. It was positive reactions watching. I think like it's fairly straightforward, which I think was good. It was a lot more subdued than Change Your Mind. I'm so glad we got like a full epilogue episode. That's something I always love in the future. And even if it doesn't, it's not like super fan servicey flash forwards, which I would like, but it was really good. It was like really well done, that last episode, and really good for, I think, sending off the show. And then I Am My Monster is a very Steven Universe episode, and in a lot of ways, and it was also like really incredibly well done. And I also really like the first episode, and we saw that one before, but the combination, I think, of the Steven arc and how they resolve that and the ending of the show, all of it feels right for me right now. What Justin said, it's like it is hard to separate feelings right now from the show ending itself versus this finale, and we can talk about both of them because we've been podcasting on Steven Universe for 5 years. Kind of crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we've gone through all of the journeys with this show. Maybe more than arguably anyone else. At least there's a record of it. And it's the end, and it feels weird. And yeah, as far as we know, this is like the definitive end of the show. And that's like its own type of discussion, and we can talk about that. We can talk about the episodes, but I mean, focused on the episodes for the most part, but I think those feelings do intertwine. Michelle, what do you think of, I guess, how it feels like as a finale to Steven Universe as a whole, as that kind of ties into the emotions of the show's over, and then also like we've been focused on the Steven Universe future arc with Steven, and then we get Dino Steven, and then we get this group hug to turn back into Steven. How's everything feel as a finale to that as well?
That was like 3 questions in one.
Yeah,
which is a lot to ask of somebody in the emotional state that we are all currently in.
This is just a reactions podcast. You can talk about anything. I'm giving suggestions.
I mean, I appreciated getting the 3 of yours perspective because like I agree with so many things you point out. Like I agree with Justin. Like if you're a lifetime fan of this show, it's impossible not to like have this feel similar to Change Your Mind, and just that it's like such a culmination of things that we've been able to spend a lot of time thinking about and deciding like what we thought was going to happen in our anticipation of payoffs, and to get those payoffs so clearly spelled out for us after so long is just like really validating and really exciting to see, because that helps solidify like the significance of those things, you know, when they're actually in an episode, instead of you just like thinking about them yourselves in your room like for, you know, 7 years or something. But then also like it is like kind of, I guess, a little more subdued. Like I don't know, like I feel like there was a lot of action. It's just that like Steven as a monster is still kind of like a cute cat in a way, and the stakes aren't the same as like White Diamond controlling everyone's bodies. But I think the fact that we also care about Steven so much, it's also in a way harder to see him go through so much pain for so long and not know how to reach out for help. And so to see everyone kind of like come and finally just reaffirm to him that they love him and support him, and that they will do for him what he's always done for them, is so good too, because it's just like I even been getting a little tired of like having all it like people just saying like how they felt, which is fair, but being like, oh, like this person's the one that ruined Steven's life, or it was this person, and just trying to make it so black and white. And the fact that, like, you even have characters in the finale talking like, oh, no, I'm the reason everything's wrong. And it's like, no, it's not any one of them. And they all made mistakes, but that's not the point. The point is what they can do to help Steven. And they did, like, work together to help Steven. And it wasn't like even Connie was the one who saved the day with that forehead smooch. It's like the combined efforts of all the people that Steven actually cares about that were able to like give him the strength and support that he really needed, that he didn't know how to give himself. And like, it's okay to get that from other people. Like that's stuff that's been building for so long. And so like to finally get it all, it just feels so right, because it's no surprise we're here, right? Like we all knew this was kind of what should happen. We didn't know exactly how, but that's why it's so satisfying. And so few finales are so satisfying, because ending a story is the hardest.
Yeah, do you feel fully satisfied right now, Michelle?
Absolutely, because there's always going to be the possibility to think about what Steven can do in the future. But you have the confidence to know, like, even though we'll never know what that really is, we can imagine it for ourselves. And we know that he has the system in place to, like, he's going to be okay. And we feel like he has the tools to really tackle whatever that new challenge is. I feel like that's the best way to end a show. So very, very satisfied. This whole show has been handled so well. And, like, honestly, like, this is such a good send-off. Like, I'm sad, but I'm way more happy that I am sad. And I feel like that's because of how it ended, you know?
More happy than sad. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's good. That's what we could hope for. So I think what you're saying, like, you like that we send Steven off and don't show where he's going. Like, you like the staging of that as that blog.
Because Alex was saying, like, he's like, man, I really wish I'd had this at certain points in my life. Like, nothing hit me more than, like, oh my God, this is still, like, a show for, like, I mean, not just children, but it has always been very much a show for children. And it's because, like, that's a lot of times in your life where you need the most affirmation and the most, like, communication to help you work through problems that you're not old enough to really understand tangibly yourself. So I think the fact that it's open-ended is good, because it's like, yeah, all of our lives are going to go on past this show. There's going to be more, and we don't know what it is. And Steven doesn't know either. I think it's way more about just, like, the overall, like, empowerment of optimism and faith that, like, if you reach out to other people, you'll have what you need to tackle whatever unexpected thing comes along. Like, that whole vibe is so intrinsic to the show. And, like, that's the lead off of everything, it feels like. And that's like the best lead off you could have, you know?
Yeah, that's a lot of good points. Justin, how are you feeling about what Michelle's talking about? Go ahead.
Yeah, Michelle and I are in such an interesting little spot where, Michelle, this is the second time we've reviewed the finale of a Cartoon Network epilogue to a long-running show that was meant to be a wrap-up. And I remember our Samurai Jack finale podcast, and we were not as satisfied on that episode.
Oh.
And because I mean the whole thing, Dylan, you mentioned, how does this compare not only as a Steven Universe quote unquote future finale? Yes, it's a separate series. No, it's not really. And versus how does it compare to as a Steven Universe as a whole finale? And I think probably my biggest issue with the Samurai Jack finale had been that it felt like it was a finale to that one season, not really the whole show. Whereas this episode really nailed it. Like you could tell this was always in Rebecca's mind. This is always how she wanted things to go. And this is kind of where we knew we'd end up eventually. And it does feel so satisfying to not only all the future has been like this, but taking a big action-y kind of show and then showing the aftermath and the results of that. That's kind of been the whole focus of Future as a whole, but this episode in particular, specifically Future, talking about, I'm seeing a therapist. To have a male protagonist on a children's show seeing a therapist without any judgment, like, I needed that 5 years ago, that's for sure. And it's one of those things where we're just now seeing therapy and counseling normalized in media. Like, DC Comics 2 years ago finally said, you know what, superheroes probably need some help, and then they decided, let's have a shooting there. So people are trying and then failing massively. And so to see this just absolute normalization, as it should be, on media that's, like Michelle said, intended for all ages. Truly, it's something 10-year-old me could have really appreciated. It's something 21-year-old me could have really appreciated. And yeah, it's a really satisfying finale. And I was even, mentioning to my fiance, we've seen like the giant, honestly, it looked like Trigon from Teen Titans in the opening credits. It really did. Just seeing that like the whole time, like, oh, what is it? What's the final boss of Steven Universe? Well, it's Steven. And to have that actually, parallel life, like ultimately you got to face yourself at some point. And to have that manifested so beautifully as the show always manages to do, it was very satisfying, and I don't think I could have asked for anything more. But one last thing, what's so great is that this episode just kept dropping lore stuff left and right, and no one cared anymore.
I know!
Like, I'm going to go visit all 39 states. And by the time it clicked with me, we're on to the next thing, because it's no longer... Yes, we all know that Steven Universe is in a different Earth. Doesn't matter. You're not going to get any more information. Just enjoy the ride. And it just felt like they were almost flaunting at this point. But you know what? They earned it.
Yeah, a lot of casual lines like that in the epilogue in the future. I think those were really fun. Yeah, Alex, are you also feeling satisfied after the finale?
Satisfied is probably the word I would use. I mean, it's a weird situation, because I think if you listen back to our earlier Steven Universe Future podcast, like episodes 1 through 5, I think I was still kind of I was like laying out the question, like, well, why do you think we're doing this epilogue anyway? Like, what do you think is going to be the end goal? Then as it was happening, it became apparent that it was focusing on Steven's mental state. But like, at Change Your Mind happened, and my impression was, if the show had ended there, I'd be perfect with that. Like, that was really a really satisfying ending. And so to have this epilogue, like adding on to it, it found the exact angle that an epilogue would have worked, which is, as Justin mentioned, like focusing on the aftermath of an action-oriented show like this, on someone, the stress that it causes. Like, that's something that you never get to see in these kinds of shows. And the fact that it handled it just so well, down to this finale, where like I'm witnessing a mental breakdown happen in the most in a realistic mental breakdown happen on a show on Cartoon Network that like kids are seeing. Like, the fact that I get that representation in there, like, so clearly and so realistically, like that it hit me so hard. And so then to see the resolution of it, so all of that makes it feel very rewarding to have this epilogue with us on top of the main show. And I think that they chose the exact road that they needed to have this final season of wrap up.
Yeah. Look, Change Your Mind is great, and it is probably better than this finale objectively. However, I'm much prefer this as like an ending to Steven Universe. Like,
Me too.
We didn't know Change Your Mind was like the series finale at the time. But like looking back, that was like very fast, and I'm very glad we have this because this ending is, I feel like it's just like a perfect, appropriate ending for Steven. And obviously, like, you need to have the Change Your Mind stuff too. But I think looking back, just the way it plays out, you get the climax of the show and Change Your Mind, and then you have like the movie, which is like an encapsulation of the show, and then you kind of have this falling action arc with, yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, most shows end with the climax, right? Like, we never get to see the
and I think that doesn't work for Steven Universe. I think this is like, I think it needs
Mm-hmm.
this, because I think like action oriented. Sure, there's a lot of action and stuff in Steven, but like this to me, this stuff is that we got in the finale. It's like much more representative of the show. You know, the final conflict of Steven Universe ends with a group hug, and
yeah.
I mean, to be fair, the ending of Change Your Mind is them all sitting on the beach and the Crystal Gem's asking him if there's room for one more, and he says always, and that's like pretty perfect and in line in a pretty similar
it was
way.
good, but it was also like 1 minute to 2 minutes. I don't know, like it right out. It's like very, very fast. But
like,
that's
if
also
you actually.
really good.
If you actually look at the production order, typically the finale of a season of Steven was never the action one. It was like the denouement right after. It was, it was full disclosure. It was always like the next episode was where they would cut the season. So this 20 episode season was just the follow up episode to Change Your Mind.
Oh my god! Yes,
like,
a very long follow up.
That's kind of what Steven always did it, so it makes sense that ultimately they would be like, you know what, one episode's not enough. We need a whole season.
Yeah, and I think this is a larger topic we could grapple with in terms of like how the structure played out, but just in terms of this finale and
also like in general, like Steven Universe from the very beginning has been an emotion based show. I mean, the kid's powers is based on controlling his emotions. So the fact that we end also with like controlling your emotions, but in like in a very different context, in a much more actionable context to real life, is amazing. That like we can connect episode 1, like literally episode 1, Gem Glow is about like him controlling his emotions to like get out his shield or whatever, and now we're here. And so like it is amazing how like that theming sticks through the entire show down to the very end.
Yeah, and I'm seeing an interview with Rebecca Sugar now. We'll dive into all this later, but I think
we should
one or a few post finale interviews. But she says, "Yeah, this is the end of the show." Yes, okay, so confirmed. This is the end of the show. This is the emotional show. Like this, you need to end like this. I feel like, and I mean, Change Your Mind's also emotion based, so it's different sides of it. But just the fact that it's like Steven. If you describe the events of Steven Universe, it can always sound like a parody of Steven Universe. Like this, the Steven Universe ends with a big group hug, but like it's so good. Like it really works so well. And it's like, I love that the show wasn't afraid of its like reputation. Like it wasn't afraid of like that people would expect these types of things, and it just kept doing what it was doing. I feel like
it was being earnest down to the end, and that's part of what makes this all so good, so easy to take in, because that they're doing it from a place of like from the deep in their heart.
Everything in this finale, I feel like, lines up with the themes of the show, the tone of the show. Down to just the diamonds being, the role the diamonds have played, and they, like the whole, Michelle was talking about the whole blame, no one's to blame thing. Like that's such a Steven theme. In my opinion, White is to blame, but like no, it's just it's like really it stops with her. But it's like really like that's such a theme. I feel like that's permeated the show, and we've never like vilified anyone to enough of an extent. And like if White Diamond in one episode, goes can be turned or whatever like this, and then this continues, and it's like reinforced here. I think that theme.
Plus it's just like I feel like it does such a disservice if you just like point a finger at one person or a couple people and say like, you're everything that's wrong with my life. It's like, okay, let's say that's true. We just going to be mad about it forever and let that drag you down? Like, clearly it's not the kind of message they want to give. They want people to be able to, reach out to a community to lift them up, not to drag them down.
I think that's a lot of what that second
it's
last episode's
never
talking about,
like it's so hard to like, because we've seen so many sides of so many of the main cast, like not so much the Diamonds, but everyone else, like it just seems a little dismissive and unfair to be like, this person is objectively what hurt Steven the most and ruined his life. Like, that's not, I don't think that's the point, you know?
Yeah, definitely that's what the show's saying. I agree. I think it like plays really well. How about I don't know. How about Steven and Connie? How about the ending we get for them? We can dive into the
You want to go straight there?
I'm not sure that's headline number 2.
I just want to ask Justin about it. I need to know Justin's reactions to everything that happened.
I'm very happy because Dylan, if you remember back to my very first podcast, I made the bold prediction that Steven Universe would end with Stevonnie riding off on Lion into the sunset. And Steven meeting Connie at a bed and breakfast with Lion for breakfast is close enough, in my opinion. And I'm going to count this as the last time that Dylan, I told you so.
Okay, there you go. The last time, okay.
After many, many times, like I predicted White Diamonds VA, I predicted Centipedal returning, so many things I was right on.
I'll give you Centipedal, but that one, I don't know. But
I just want to say, I think that this ending has established that the ending is not Stevonnie, but rather Steven and Connie as independent beings. They've established that a lot in this final epilogue, and I love that it's not Stevonnie, and that Stevonnie doesn't make an appearance in this finale, that it is like Connie on her own, like confronting Steven, like any scene where Connie's talking in this finale is great.
Connie gives the big,
but also not Connie on her own because everyone else is there too. So it's love can like conquer all, but it can also just be very deep felt platonic love from your whole family. It doesn't have to be romantic, which is again something we don't see like shown enough, frankly.
Yeah, that's great. But also we do see romantic love, Justin. Steven and Connie kissing. So what was I need the reaction to the smooch. Yeah, come on.
I'm incredibly happy. Okay. I'm incredibly happy because, as some people know, Steven and Connie's relationship has always meant a lot to me for everything that it has been and hasn't been and everything it's represented and all the ups and downs. To see them get that happy ending, I know everyone's like, oh, the straight main characters got together in the end, whoop-de-doo, but like to me,
I don't think anyone's saying that really, honestly.
Thankfully, I haven't seen that reaction yet, but I mean, come on, it was kind of obvious from the moment Connie showed up that it would eventually happen. We all kind of thought, maybe not, but come on. And it did, but you know what? They earned it, and I'm happy, and my heart soars, so.
Yes.
Are
they dating? Like, it seems like they're already dating, right?
Mouth kiss means you're dating. I think
is that
a lot
official
of
Michelle proclamation. A mouth kiss means you're dating.
I want to say this. So I have been pretty anti Steven and Connie, not because I dislike them or their relationship, but just because it felt like Justin saying they introduced her when he clearly has a crush on her, and then it never goes away, and that felt like something we see a million times. I will say now, from this finale, I fully support Steven and Connie as a ship pairing because this is how you do it. You don't make their relationship like the center thing and make that mean all other relationships don't matter or that one person has all this pressure to fix the other person. Like, it's a community effort to help somebody. And it's a part of your life, but it's not the only thing in your life. And this show's made it very clear that like Connie and Steven are a part of each other's lives, but they are not each other's whole life.
Universe.
They're not each other's universe. They got their whole own universe. So like this is how you do it. And I'm very happy with them together from this point on.
What a twist.
I know.
Better than Samurai Jack's love angle.
Oh my God, Tony!
Why?
I don't know why we're talking about Samurai
Jack. Here. That is not on the level.
I just like insults. I just like reminding Michelle of that wonderful time.
Alex, Steven and Connie reaction to the kiss, was it a happy reaction?
The kiss was fine. I'll say that Greg was in the shot, which is funny to me. Like Ruby and Sapphire, when they kiss, it's like their faces cover the entire screen. When Steven and Connie kiss, like Dad is in the background. Like, yeah, I'm watching. So like props to them for not giving it that treatment. But also I'll say that like I felt like the kiss was a little I didn't get as big a reaction from it because of the fact that Connie and I, my monster, is the most romantic thing ever. Like her speech to like get everybody to like care about Steven, and then like her talking to Steven as a monster on the nose, and that little like peck on the monster, like getting him to cry pink tears. So like all the stuff in I Am My Monster is the real Converse ship stuff there. The kiss is just like the cherry on. The kiss is the cherry on top. It's good, but I'm just saying. If you're into the ship,
moments of the connected episodes against each other, they're both good.
Look, if we're not going to be here to blame people, let's at least make things more important than other things.
Okay, yeah, you're learning the themes of Steven Universe. They're really sinking in. No, I agree that the moments in I Am My Monster also that. It's really amazing. And the kiss with Dino Steven. It's another great Steven moment.
Yes, that long neck. I'll never forget it.
Okay, we're coming to that in a second, Michelle. Hold on. And the kiss in the future. I don't know. I really loved it. I think it was so casual, and it's like how they presented it speaks so much to where they are without like spelling everything out.
Just
and
comfortable.
It's like such it leaves it open to so much fan fiction, like it's perfect. It's the way to go.
Fan fiction?
Write those fanfics surrounding what happened in those few months between I Am My Monster in the future and then what happens after the future, it's right there.
I mean, you want me to draw a new map of America with the 39 states?
No, but if you track the route that Steven goes on and where Connie meets him.
Road trip map.
Okay.
We agree the Dakotas are now one state, correct?
Probably.
My thought when I heard 39 was some states like Russia were just wiped off the map. Like that's what I thought.
Russia's not a state.
In terms of being wiped off the map.
Maybe it is in this universe.
Do we know that there are countries? We only know about states. We don't know about countries.
Okay.
Florida Island.
This could be another podcast. How about the dinosaur Steven and just Steven's arc, conclusion. So we've been building up existential this breakdown to Steven. It happens, and then it culminates. He turns into the dinosaur, and then he basically everyone gets through to him because he is this great support system surrounding him, and everyone hugs him and tells him how much they love him and stuff. And so it's just like this. Everyone's support helps Steven through this time, through the representation of what he's going through in this giant dinosaur, Michelle.
Wait, was there a question in there?
I assumed that when I said giant dinosaur, you would just start talking,
Oh, of course. I mean, oh my God. I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, in the intro, he looks like a big wormy. It turns out he only has a wormy neck and a dino body. So he's technically dino wormy, not just
I'm
dino.
not sure what part worm he is.
The worm's in the neck. That's the whole worm part.
Just a long-headed dinosaur.
It's the wormy dino. But I think I'm losing my trail of thought because I'm seeing him for real, revealed for all the world to see at last. But I mean, it's so good. It is again, it's such one really nice thing about animation is you can take really specific but hard to vocally express concepts like your depression and feelings about yourself and just be like, you want to see what that would look like visually? A giant monster. Like that, again, for kids, that's such a good way to spell out exactly what you feel like inside, even if you normally can't transform into something like that. And it's and honestly, I'll just say, as terrifying as he was supposed to be, because it was Steven and you could see he was kind of struggling with feeling bad about some parts of destroying things. It's he is kind of a big awkward cat just running around loose.
Yeah, you said the cat thing before and I restrained myself from
he really is a cat though, and that's part of what makes it kind of oh, poor guy, instead of oh, he's gonna kill everyone, it took some of the edge off, which I appreciate.
He was more like a wild animal than he was trying to murder everyone. Yeah, the kind of
totally, yeah.
Okay, and then you to restrain him. So Michelle loved how it was executed and this metaphor for what he's going through and stuff. Yeah, Justin, what was your reaction to Steven turning into this dino kaiju type thing?
My reaction is there better be an AMV of that episode set the monster by Imagine Dragons by the end of the night, or I will
There's gotta be a better monster song out there. Is that the only one we produced?
The Monster by Imagine Dragons is the best one.
Yeah, it's iconic.
So, yeah. And I'll have a talk with you, Alex, later about the best use of that, but that's not the point. The point is, no, it was a great representation, and it was truly, truly relatable as someone who does use that exact metaphor to describe his own self-hatred. Yeah, no, feel it, Steven. I feel it, Steve-O. I really do. So yeah, I need hugs.
Yeah, that's the solution, right? Just get everyone to hug you. Yeah.
I mean, I can agree. Forehead smooches solve everything.
Oh my god, it was so good. He made like a little sound. He's like, and it's like, oh, the poor giant
what did he say? What was that?
monster. He was like, it was
but now was the glue that held them all together.
Oh my god, when her arm stretched, like that's the thing. Like as emotional as it's got, like every so often there was just a really funny part that totally like pulled me out of my ugly crying, and that was part of the emotional whiplash too.
Alex, how do you think everything was handled? The short version of like how this concluded this arc that Steven has gone through.
Well, I wanted to comment on something Michelle said with regards to like how
that you're going to comment on.
No, not that.
Oh, okay.
I'll say I did not get cat vibes from this. I just got Godzilla, which is like a totally different thing in my opinion. But what she did mention was something about how animation allows you to portray these concepts in very literal manners. And Steven Universe has done this with mental illness before. Like what comes to my mind immediately is how they portrayed the Lapis Jasper interaction inside Malachi, with like Lapis and Jasper both in chains in that water world, and like that represented so well like how the abusive relationship works. And this feels like an extension of that side of Steven Universe, where they're able to portray these how mental illness affects people in very visual ways. In this case, like literally getting to the point where Steven says, I'm a monster, and he turns into a monster. But the fact is that it culminated in such a way where like you could feel the spiral of self-hatred getting to that point when he's getting the intervention. You go through the denial, and then once he's faced with the things that he's done, then it's when it all comes. You can feel it all crashing down on him to the point where he gets to that feeling about himself. And obviously you skipped to next episode, and he is actually a monster. But like. Yeah, I really appreciate the process, how we got there. The monster itself, good design and all, but like the point of the monster is more of how we got there, and I think that they did a really good job. As cringy as Everything Is Fine is, because like that whole episode is just like seeing him go through denial after denial after denial, and like to the point where we have to do an intervention to get him moving in the process. But like all that episode is like waiting for the final domino to fall. And when you get there, it's like, man, like we've been heading here for this whole season, and it's finally here, and now we're gonna see what happens. So I really love the process of us getting to Kaiju Steven.
Yeah, and that was the whole Steven Universe future, right? Was that it was basically just all building up to that. So it's kind of all was the build up to Kaiju Steven. The topic of like the Steven Universe representing things through metaphors and you can only do it in animation and stuff. That's such a good topic, and Alex is right that the show has a history of doing that. How about fusion? Just the general concept of fusion. I feel like that's like, another example of that, like through intimacy and stuff. That's such a classic Steven Universe topic, and I think that's also like a visual metaphor type thing.
There's been talk, and like I don't know if this totally holds up, but like around season 2 or 3, I think people started saying stuff like, well, part of like what a fusion looks like has to do with how like positive the relationship is. Like sometimes like if they have a lot of extra arms or something, like that can be a sign of them being kind of out of sync, like emotionally, or just in terms of like their connectedness to each other. Which again is just a really good visual for just showing like, is this relationship like positive or not? But also in Everything's Fine, like I think it's so brilliant that Steven, he stays pink the whole time, even though he's trying to act really normal with this like super cringy fake confidence. But the fact that he's glowing immediately tips everyone off that like he's clearly not fine, because like in real life, it's a lot more subtle. Like, you have to read very subtle social cues if you're picking up on somebody's actual discomfort when they're playing it off as normal. But because he's just literally glowing, he can't do that with anyone, which again, I think is so brilliant. Because like some of the times he was talking, I could almost buy that he was being truthful, except he was like pink, you know? I think that's really brilliant. And it's another example of that visual manifestation.
Yeah, that's another one. While we're on that episode quickly, Bismuth Pearl.
Yes!
We dug into that one pretty quick, I feel like. Not quick, but no Pearl Amethyst. Bismuth Pearl seemed to be the conclusion. I'll grudgingly admit that.
I'll grudgingly admit it too. It's the truth. It's the true pairing. She's the TA to
She's
Bismuth's
the TA.
heart.
That feels like a metaphor to me. The TA, yeah.
You guys watch too many fanfics.
We watched too many fanfics.
This epilogue was just a fanfic, so we did watch it. Yeah, I feel like the future, the epilogue. I feel like it wasn't a fanfic. I feel like that's kind of like one of the points is you had OKKO's finale. I feel like that's more of a fanfic, something like that was crazy with flashes to the future and stuff. And I was like, I want that for the show, but this is like more muted and more grounded and feels really good. I don't know if I'm not saying it's like. I don't know if it would have been better or worse than the OKKO version, but love that this would have been. But it just, all I know is that what we did get, I think, felt really right for the show.
I think it feels right because Pearl's, a lot of her entire like backstory and characterization was built around like having such a tumultuous like experience with her love for Rose. And the fact that this isn't like the center of her life now with Bismuth, I think is part of what makes it feel a lot more healthy. Like it should be subdued because again, that's not the only part of her life that should matter is her relationship with Bismuth. It's a nice part, but it shouldn't be everything to her because that's what was so toxic to her the first time.
Yeah, I was talking more generally, but yeah, we don't like flash forward to a Bismuth Pearl type of like we don't flash forward and see. Yeah, and I think that works for kind of all the characters.
Take it slow because Pearl needs like probably some time to adjust. It's a big step for her to move on that way, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we can go through the endings for everyone quickly that we get. I mean, I don't know, like, do we get like definitive endings for all our characters? We get like Steven giving everyone gifts. We get the send off scene with Peridot, Lapis, Bismuth, and we get the send offs. We like one of the things in the future is that's like, why aren't the crystal gems sad? And they're trying to be strong for Steven. So we get that send off. We get the Steven and Greg. Steven gives Greg his room in yeah, that's interesting. No more van.
No more homeless. Just feel the bed, Dad. Oh, well, I guess I have to stay now.
In all his childhood, Greg has never sat in that bed?
In that bed? I guess not.
Okay. Were there any, Justin, was there any character you were particularly reacted to seeing where we left off with them?
I mean, Amethyst really needs to be okay deleting those save files, Steven. Like, truly, it's okay to let go of the save files and move on. It's a Super Nintendo. No. I mean, honestly, no one else got the most satisfying endings. Just because, I mean, it's never been about them. It's been about Steven. They will have their own adventures. They will have... Because this isn't the end of their stories. This is the end of Steven's. So they don't need satisfying endings because they're not done with this chapter of their life.
Yeah, this reminds me, we've talked a lot about, I think on this podcast, about how this show is only told through Steven's perspective. And this was more relevant early when it's like the mythology is unfolding based on what Steven knows. So it's like we can't get these... the flash forwards kind of don't make sense because, like Steven could be there, but it's like we see the ending of Steven's ending in this journey, and then we don't see any more of the crystal gems while he's gone. Like that's all we get to see. So it feels...
no stack of postcards that Steven gets throughout the year.
Yeah. And so I think it feels very appropriate based on how the show's always this show's perspective has been. Yeah. What other? I don't know. Were there any other crazy endings? It is. I feel like it is a little subdued in that regard. That Jasper's ending. How about that, Michelle?
Oh my god. Okay, here's one thing I didn't expect. She seems to have moved into little homeschool, which I never thought she would do anytime soon. But she was like there when he came down. So maybe she is actually starting to integrate more with the other gems, you know, at her own speed. But I think that's a huge step for her. It really bothers me that she might never stop calling Steven my diamond. Like, that's always gonna feel so wrong to me, but she's gonna have to figure her own life out now because he's booking it out of there. So I'm excited to see like where she ends up going.
In
I think
her
it's gonna
defense,
be yeah.
In her defense, she did break down some walls this episode.
She clearly did. Justin, yes. Okay. My other Lapis stand is here.
Lapis being a watercolor artist is perfect and has honestly been the trajectory she's been going since day one.
She was so excited about the art set. It made me think like a lot of the Crewniverse probably was like, okay, all you people saying these art sets suck, like, you're wrong. They're so exciting because there's so many options. She's like, I can watercolor too.
My fiance even had the look on her face of, oh, one of those kits? Wow, Steven, way to really get something great and special.
How about the whole Cookie Cat thing? I think that's like a main thing we haven't talked about.
Pearl's secret rap career finally came true.
I mean, yeah, it did. They let her do it.
Pearl's rapping is canon, and honestly, that's all that needs to be said about this episode. Show done. Podcast over.
Also, good backup.
On top of the memeage, I'll say also this kind of follows through with Snow Day and other parts of this season, where the gems like seem to have a nostalgia for season 1, Steven. And they like let it out every once in a while, but at least after I Am a Monster, it doesn't have quite the condescending tone it had in Snow Day. Whereas it's more of just like, you know, we've been family for a long time, and so like we have these inside jokes now. So like it felt very very warm that segment, but it felt also like a continuation of a theme of the dynamic between Steven and the Crystal Gems this season.
I love bringing Cookie Cat back. I think that's a great bookend to the early parts of the show. I love them singing, and then Garnet being the left his family behind it. They're like at the end, like that was. I feel like that was the funniest moment of the finale.
The deadpan.
Yeah, the deadpan. I don't know. The Cookie Cat stuff might have been my favorite part of the last episode.
Okay.
I thought it was really good. Okay, how about Steven? He mentioned his new therapist. Video chatting his new therapist. There you go.
I cheered so like we've been saying this since when did this start? January, November.
Such a meme. Everyone needs therapy, right? Especially Steven this arc.
God. He's just like, I think it was Justin who was saying like he says it so casually. It's just like it's not a big deal. It's super normal, and it's gonna help his life so much. And there's no like shame in just doing it. Like it helps normalize it so much, and that is so important to see. Like said well.
Yeah, I think so. I think it invites so much more. Like out of all the things, I feel like that they could have followed up on. There's a lot of little throwaway things. I feel like Steven being in therapy. I feel like that's the one you want to be like. Let's hear more. Let's go dive into that. You know. But it's a good conclusion to this thing he's just been on, and now that he's in a much better place, and I'm glad that was in there.
Well, it's just another detail that adds to the realism with which they've been treating Steven's arc this season.
Yeah, definitely. We got how about the actual ending? Being Human, the future finale song. The credits song plays. We like transition to the credits, like kind of with Steven driving off. Using the ending theme and playing it, I think very Steven Universe move. I thought it was solid. I liked how all that went at the end.
It's so perfect because like we've been hearing the snippets a lot like Love Like You, which I know like changed a lot because Rebecca had so long to write the lyrics. Mm-hmm. But for this, like because you get those little snippets from like every back end of those 20 episodes, it just drives home to like that. Yes, this is like where we wanted to take Steven the whole time. Everything we laid out for you was very intentional, and this is the culmination. And this is like what we mean to do. And that was just kind of really nice too. It's like it all kind of just was like, oh yeah, that's what the lyrics are talking about, and that is his car, and he is driving away. Oh, it all makes sense now. So when you rewatch those episodes, you're going to have this extra layer of appreciation for it, because they have been planning it for a while in the background.
I also want to comment on, like, because this song was used in combination with that image of the car going away, the idea of Steven leaving Beach City has been around since that outro existed. Yeah. For the longest time, I think it was split between like this, that'll be a positive thing for Steven, or like that'll mean the show ends on a down note. So I love the fact that the future like frames it in a way where like everyone is, glad that like Steven has this new like this is the way he's gonna cope by like go visiting other places around the country and all. And you got this back and forth with the Crystal Gems of like they're pretending to like not be emotionally moved by it, and at the very end they are, but they like come out with like, well, we still want you to do it. It's just obviously we're gonna be sad that we miss you. But so when we finally get to that moment, it's the combination of the song being so calming as well as the reaffirming of the whole episode that this is a positive thing for Steven. It really helps this show this finale to feel satisfying. The fact that like we're sure that everyone's on board with this decision, which I think for a while we knew that it was going to happen eventually, I think the vibe which it was going to happen was unknown until now.
He's leaving for now, and I'm very pro Steven taking some time out of Beach City. Potentially, he could stay outside of there, but at the very least, I feel like this is a very necessary move for him.
He does make that point, like, when they still have their poker faces, like, like, I might never come back ever. It's like, there is a chance that, like, he might video call, he might visit, but he could more or less be out of the house on his own for good, just like most young adults.
Right, but at the same time, the family affirms in that final scene, like, look, no matter what, we're going to be around if you need to talk to us or whatever. And like that's the important part, right? Like, as long, even if he doesn't show up physically, but if they're needed, the family will always be willing to bring him back in. That's such an important, like, a big reaffirming thing for anyone recovering from a traumatic past, to like know that they have their closest people available when they need them.
In general, I feel like that's a big thing from this finale. Is like Steven has such a wonderful support system now, and that came about from him being so there for everyone throughout the rest of the series before Future, and then now he's the one that needs help, and everyone who he helped is there for him. Definitely, like,
like that's the thing, right? Like that's the point of a healthy relationship. Like it should be a give and take. You should be able to both extend the gesture but also receive it, because you need different things at different times. And it's just so, like, Dylan, it's true. Like he all these relationships, all these people who care about him because he like helped them and he meant something to them and he was there for them, and it was him being himself that like built this support system around him. Like he did that for himself. And so like the fact that they are able to actually like come forward and pay it back is so validating, and that's how it should always be. It's something to strive for, clearly.
Yeah, I think I Am My Monster culminates with that theme really, really well.
Yeah.
And seeing everyone talk to Steven and tell those things to Steven, their personal stories.
Yeah.
And then he wakes up surrounded by everyone.
And he ugly cries, and it's so jarringly real. Like Zach Calson again, like we never give him enough credit for the amount of like amazing, like emotive stuff he can do with his voice acting. But like that was so good.
Zach really good all throughout Future, especially.
Yeah. Nothing better than ugly crying into your cat.
Yes, that's what they're for.
Truly one of the most relatable moments in the entire show. Just grab your cat and cry it out.
Lion made me think of Linus Pink Diamond, which made me think of Unresolved Things.
Dylan, don't you dare!
No. I'm talking about the chest. Was not. We don't know what was in the chest.
Riot.
Everyone riot.
Okay, so good about not bringing up the chest, because you know I'm a theorist and you know how much
Justin,
the chest.
Where's your post-finale essay on what the chest meant after all?
I saw also, everyone.
Was it a metaphor?
No, it was not.
It's not a metaphor because it was indeed opened sometime in the 3-year gap. I always just assumed that we would get a comic that took place in between Steven and the movie as just a fun little extra adventure, not post-Future, just in between, but apparently not. So
Nope.
I'm going to rewatch Future, find a random object in the background, tell myself that was what's in the chest, and call it a day. It's all the unsold copies of Greg's CD. Done.
Oh, okay.
That's where he stored his homemade cookie cats.
Yeah, he had to lock them away in
I
a
think
chest.
we just
That's
missed it,
right.
yeah. Okay, anyway, you got to mention the chest.
It was locked when he got there, Michelle.
Did you
I
have
know
to
it,
mention
I
the chest,
know.
though? Did you have
No,
to?
Dylan, you know
We
what?
didn't
You
get the
forgot to
answer. There's
mention-
a major unresolved thing from the show. We
Dylan
didn't get the answer in this finale.
Forgot to mention that Onion was front and center in some of these episodes, and how exciting was that?
Well, he was there for a second. He hit the baseball. What else did he do?
He walked around. I forget. He did
President?
stuff.
He was front and center. Look, there was a shot of just
he had
Onion
a
and
cheeseburger backpack at the end. It was
Oh my God,
cute.
did he? That's so cute. Maybe Steven
that's
gave it
not
to
where
him.
I was going next.
I
Okay,
bet-
how about the thing I was going to mention, Michelle, was the Peridot gets a Steven shirt as her final gift, and Steven says, "Be the Steven you want to see in the world." And yeah, that Peridot stuff was great with the Steven
happened.
shirt.
I literally said, "Ain't that the truth?" Like, yeah, everyone should be the Steven they want to see in the world.
That was probably the Lapis the Bismuth was great. But I just love seeing the three of them together at the end. I think that's great. The three of them in the movie are so good, and
The B team really came through.
I like that ending.
Although, if I can comment on Peridot and Lapis and I Am My Monster, Peridot gets the beautiful moment of like getting to say like, you believed in me even though like there's no reason for you to do that, like you kept at me, which it was a nice thing to bring up because we dedicated so much of that end of season 2, I think it was, to the Peridot conversion arc, so that was great. I've like the only doc that I have is that Lapis doesn't get to express what Steven did for her. Like she gets.
We were expecting a big Lapis finale, and it wasn't
Right, and
necessarily
it would have fit so perfectly with that whole scene of like everyone talking about how like Steven was there for them in difficult circumstances. Lapis was like the earliest one and one of the like most connected to them, and so like we got the Lapis goodbye with the watercolors, and that felt good. But I couldn't help but be like, man, Lapis in the I Am My Monster, like there was such an opportunity there, and we didn't get her expression of thanks.
It would have been nice. I think we've had a lot of like falling action Lapis. I feel like that's
We
been a lot
have.
of the show. So.
Yeah, I think more recently he's had more time with her than Peridot, which is why maybe they gave Peridot that moment just to kind of like, oh yeah, we haven't talked about like Steven and Peridot.
Peridot's the character you want to say the big lie. Like she's the big steed sealer. So I think that kind of makes sense.
Well, that's unfair.
It's a show.
I know how you feel, Alex. I think like it. At least like we know what he helped Lapis with pretty clearly. So even though she didn't say it, it's not like it's a mystery. And I feel like that's like some consolation, hopefully.
I think I got Garnet, therapist Garnet. Speaking of,
oh my god, yeah, she's in couples therapy. It was so cool.
Yeah. Seems like a specialist for couples therapy. Yeah. Okay. I like that. Peridot's horticulture class, all that stuff and everything's fine. It was fun.
It's horticulture, not horticulture.
Horticulture.
You bungled the correction, but anyway. The softball game. Yeah. Was the bingo card all true? I think it was probably
there were some falses in there, like a new fusion.
Oh yeah.
New fusion. Yeah, but Alexandrite. Speaking of that, yeah, we got one last appearance. There you go. Yeah. Oh, and the cluster. That was random.
The cluster, yeah. I think like the fact that the cluster could like tune in enough to the earth to be like, oh, Steven's making a mess. Like better not a cat. Like that's like honestly kind of really charming.
I lost track of where the cluster was. I didn't know it was still in Earth.
Yeah.
It's okay. Because in the first episode, Yellow says she's going to deal with that. So I guess that's happening soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's most things. I mean, there's a lot from the first episode, which I really love that first episode, but we did a separate podcast on that. And Spinell's great. That's my main comment. I don't know. Michelle, is there anything else from the finale? Or how are you feeling right now?
Spinell, I just have to bring this up. So when this ship comes down and the diamonds and Spinell are there, Spinell's like, we had to return your, and I swear she says the words shoe thong.
Correct.
And I cannot believe she knows what a thong is. And like, honestly, like flip-flops are shoe thongs. And that will live with me forever now. And I'm so grateful. Spinell.
Yeah, they came back to give Steven his shoe. Yeah.
Shoe thong 2020.
Okay. That's the hashtag? Okay.
Yeah, for our Australian listeners in America, we don't call them thongs. We call them flip-flops or sandals usually. But yeah, just know that we know that in other countries they call them thongs.
They do!
You
Oh
know
my-
that.
Yes.
You know that.
Oh my god! That's amazing.
Yes.
Well,
I guess
okay.
she's Australian or something. Justin, anything else, or what? How are you feeling?
I'm just really ready to get the Steven Universe Future soundtrack because I need a full version of Mr. Universe. And until that, I will just sit here crying in a ball. Please just feed me snacks and tell me it'll all be okay.
I think the show is telling you it'll all be okay. You know. I think.
Oh, I
that's what
know.
the
I know.
future is
Just keep
saying.
reassuring.
Okay. Consistent. Yeah. Constant reassurance.
Repetition is very important for me.
Okay. Good. It'll all be okay, Justin.
Thank you.
Steven's gone, but it was an incredible run, and it ended great, so it'll all be okay. That's what I'd say. Okay, Alex, same question.
Forgive me for stealing a take of yours that I saw on Twitter, but like the fact that this show and BoJack Horseman end so close to each
Yeah, this
other.
is my take.
They both deal with mental illness in such realistic ways, and they have such endings with very different approaches, and like they're both so meaningful to me in different parts of my life. Steven Universe more so, but like BoJack also, like it was there for me during very difficult, dark times of my life. So the fact that they're both ending around the same time feels very fitting, and also like it feels kind of like a new era of my life. Like now I have to find a new show that I'm going to be. I don't know if I'm going to be as invested in a show as I was with Steven Universe for the past couple of years. Like it hasn't happened before, and I don't know if it'll happen again.
Alex, this was me with Avatar and Korra, and I haven't found something similar since. So, like, it's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
yeah.
You can love a lot of shows, not as much, but
right.
they're-
It's like I recognize that maybe this will be it. Like I'll never hit a peak like this again. So I'm just like here trying to enjoy the waves that are coming over me of like this is finally over. I'll have that feeling of watching the future and breaking down out as it ended. I'll have that with me just like I had the feeling of breaking down after Change Your Mind. Like that'll stick with me forever. So thank you, Rebecca Sugar. Thank you, Steven Universe, for being in my life. And honestly, thank you to Steven Universe for introducing me to the Overly Animated podcast. Like I wouldn't have met all of you and become friends with all of you if I didn't gravitate towards this podcast, which I came to in part because it was one that was talking about Steven Universe in an analytical way, in a way that that made it easier for me to connect it to my life. So the fact that this show exists and got me to know such great and awesome people, like I'll always be grateful for that. So that's my final thoughts here.
Yeah, can we take a moment
group
to
hug,
like,
group hug.
yeah.
That's the way, like the ending. Yeah.
let's
That's
take a
how I
moment
got
to
here, too.
acknowledge like how much the show has changed all of our lives personally. Like we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this show, and that's a pretty big deal, you know.
Yeah. It's brought a lot of our community together. It's always been kind of our main show we've talked about at this podcast, but also just kind of like the main show in all of our lives. And
But we could probably do like a whole separate podcast on the
effect. I think this is a separate.
Because like I mean, if we're not even going to like the LGBT related
I know,
like
like
effects of
there's
it.
so many things.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've said that like multiple times. Like this is probably a separate podcast. This is like the third time. So they're like, hopefully we'll do those in the future. Yeah, I agree. No, it's been, thank you to everyone involved with the show, Rebecca. Like, I mean, you're starting to like, there's a little bit of a press circuit with her, the last few days. And she's talked about like just being with the show constantly for so many years. And, it's you never like she's not like posting about like some creators you like know like what's they're up to, or so like she's not like we don't really know what she's been going through and stuff, but apparently she's taking a break now, and I think obviously very well deserved. And just Steven, I think Steven Universe gonna go down as one of the greats, and this future arc cements it.
It changed children's animation forever. Like the landscape is forever altered by this show in more ways than one, and that alone is just so historically significant. Like this moment is so historically significant, and like that's such a big deal. It feels like such a big deal. We wouldn't have things like She-Ra in the form that it is without Steven. That's just a fact, you know?
And hopefully even, more things to come, too.
Someone had to open the door, and it ended up being Steven. And it's shown so much of the things you can do right with so much, like, thoughtful intentionality. And, like, the fact that being authentic speaks to people way better than trying to guess about what they care about. And that's, like... That's why it's such a huge fandom. Like, that's why a lot of us are here. That's why a lot of us are so invested after 7 years. Like, that's not, like, unique to us. It's just a testament to what this show is. Like, it's a moment, you know, in history.
A long moment, yeah. We've been with for a long one now. And, yeah, I think Steve, and I think Steven, the show stayed true to what it was kind of until the end here.
Yeah.
And it feels really great right now, I think. Anything else? We'll have more. We can always continue this discussion, but it's not the end but the end of this podcast. Justin, anything else?
I mean, I guess more than anything, I want to be selfish and just say thank you, Dylan, for letting me write a Steven Universe article all those years ago. And
Aww.
Of course,
here
Justin,
we are.
Thank you for doing so many podcasts and having such great Steven Universe takes and everything, and
I got
all
you
everyone
guys.
got that. Yeah. Okay. Well, we can be more sappy. I think that's probably a sappy podcast. We can probably do that. So, but thank you to everyone for listening. You know, a lot of people listen to us for a long time with Steven Universe, so thank you very much. Keep subscribed. Keep in touch. Commenting on our Discord, overlyanimated.com/Discord. We'll still be here and everything. So not the end of the community, not the end of like our community or the Steven Universe community or everything, but probably is the end of the show. And I think all processing that, but loving the ending that this was. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. That's as good as I think we're to get for concluding all these many things at once. But, yes. Thanks for listening. Thanks to all our patrons. A lot of them Steven Universe, specific fans, and that's why they have supported us. Thank you for all your support throughout the run of Steven Universe. Patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks, all our patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Joanna, A.K. Crispy, also all of our patrons. We could read, that would be a good opportunity to read all of them out, but there's a lot of, there's not that many, but there's a lot, so we're not going to do that.
Let's sing the Cookie Cat song while Dylan reads to the patrons. It'll be great.
We won't be able to hear him if
Copyright
we sing Cookie
strike.
Cat. Well, that
Sing
too.
Cookie Cat.
Is it
Don't get
copyright
us
if
off.
we're singing with our
Don't get
voice?
us off of
Covers
YouTube.
still get copyright strikes now. It's terrible.
Really?
What if
True,
we just
yeah,
do it as a
true.
spoken word?
That will probably pass, but then that's
He
very
is
confusing if you guys
frozen.
are talking and
Tree.
I'm also talking.
Yeah, we
Okay.
do one word, you do one patron there.
No, okay.
Wait.
Ryan, Steve, Alex, Beatrice,
Yeah.
Hugh, Michael, and Needle are executive producers. There you go. We'll say those ones out. But no, we've thanked everyone throughout all of the Steven run, and thank you guys very much. And again, hopefully more Steven Universe podcasts. This doesn't have to be the conclusion for all this. And I think that's it. We'll see when we'll be back with Steven
Sappy
Universe.
podcast. Yes, let's do it. Sappy podcast.
Sappy podcast.
Sapcast.
We all
Sap-
get a little crunk and we come with full
Okay,
sap.
okay. We'll workshop this idea. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.